Hello, everybody. So we're live, and yeah, I hope everybody's having a good Saturday. I know I'm not. So, content's been a bit sporadic. I'm trying to do something every 2 days, which is kind of difficult given that, yeah, just the current environment. So if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to complain about my life for a minute or two. So it's entering the busy season at work. So the expectation I was told is 12, 14-hour days, and that I work that amount of time on weekends too, for the next month or couple months. And I don't know if you, for those of you who don't know, if you work in a white collar or professional job, you don't get overtime pay. I believe that the labor laws expressly exclude people from getting paid overtime if they work as a if they work in a professional job. So, like, I had brought it up once, and what happened when I brought it up was I kind of got threatened, more or less, to never bring it up again. Because, I don't know, because the company can't afford to pay me overtime. And if we bring it up, then they will, I don't know, like count my bathroom breaks or something and dock me pay for them. I forget what it was, but it was just... this is bullshit. Let's see, cheer 2. Oh, thank you, Savage Large, for the cheers. So anyways, no, I've just been in a pretty foul mood lately. Just because of that. The Imperial Civil War series is going to continue. I've just kind of been... Well, I've done 2 episodes. The rest of them are going to come. I just need to do some more research for the next couple parts of it. For the Isard and Zinj part. Just because Isard and Zinj both have a pretty extensive, kind of interesting backstory, and kind of doing the characters justice is just going to take a little while to kind of get down. They're kind of, they're major characters, so... Well, major warlords compared to some of the other ones who just aren't that significant. How's my gout doing? My gout's not doing bad. I've lost a fair amount of weight lately, actually. I've lost like 6-7 pounds since I started Prozac, so hopefully I'll keep losing weight. That would be great, actually. It's always kind of been a struggle, just because I kind of eat when I get stressed and I'm kind of neurotic, so yeah. So if anybody wants to like ask me about something or that kind of thing, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just ramble on about various topics. So yeah, so a lot of people seemed confused. Well, not a lot, but a couple people were confused by my review on... my review of the Avengers movies. Because I seem to have hated them. I don't really know why I hated them so much. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm getting another call. Okay, so this is literally how fucking petty the people... This is how lazy my fucking bosses are. So I sent them a file that I did today, and they're like, could you rename the file for us? Because I don't feel like going to my computer and renaming the file. And that's kind of the level of laziness that I have to fucking deal with. Like, one of my bosses won't even take they refuse to take their computer home on the weekend because they don't want to work weekends. The expectation of a course is that I have to do it. So like, the thing with Infinity Wars is it wasn't like the worst movie I've ever seen, But it irritated me. Just because I'm tired of these shitty movies. Like, they're just all boring, and they're just made to appeal to, like, the lowest common denominator. And it's hard to... The managerial class is fucking us over, says Savage Lars. Yeah, they kind of are. It's just not a good environment out there. I know people say, like, that the recession's over, but the job market's still pretty rough out there. As I'm sure a lot of people have noticed. This is Steampunk Tower. Steampunk Tower 2. Oh, I should turn the music off or this will get shut down for Content ID match. So yeah, it was kind of interesting because some people thought I'm a DC fanboy for some reason. Because I said I prefer the DC movies to the Marvel movies. Because the DC movies are complete shit, but they're shitty in kind of an interesting way. Like, I actually kind of enjoyed Justice League. Because Justice League was utterly, like, trash. But it was kind of trashy, like I said, in an interesting way. If that makes sense. Like, because they literally did everything that you could do wrong in a movie, they did wrong in Justice League. And to, like, watch it and to go, like, just to try to figure out how they made the decisions they made was fascinating. It's a bit like, what was that movie again? Suicide Squad. Like, every decision in Suicide Squad was terrible. Like, everything about the movie was a complete disaster. But that made it kind of fun to watch. So, like, that is kind of a point in its favor. Is just what a disaster it is. Like, the entire... Like, my problem with Suicide Squad is the entire movie is them trying to fix a problem that was caused by creating the Suicide Squad, because the Suicide Squad had Sorceress as part of it, and because they recruited her and, like, forced her to work for the Suicide Squad, Sorceress went crazy and tried to blow up the world. Yeah, so they went crazy and tried to blow up the world. And then, like, the Suicide Squad saved the world. So that justified its existence. But if they hadn't have tried to do the Suicide Squad... Like, if they hadn't have formed the Suicide Squad in the first place, then they wouldn't have had to save the world. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but that was kind of, like, my issue with the movie. Other than it just sucking in general and, like, it not really making a lot of sense. Like, I think they call, like, Sorceress's attack, like, a terrorist attack. Or something like that. Like, it's just bad. But like I said, I'd rather watch that than something like Doctor Strange. Like, Doctor Strange was one of the most aggressively mediocre movies. Like, my friend Abstract and I have a term for movies like that we call toilet water. So, like, with acid, you'll put it on, like a piece of paper or something. Like a dissolvable piece of paper. You'll put a drop of acid on it. And then you'll put it on your tongue. Or something to that effect. So we say, like, there's a film called Toilet Water, which is where instead of putting the drop of acid, they put, like, a drop of toilet water on it, and the person thinks that they're on acid, but really they're just having a feverish delusion from the bacterial infection. And that's kind of like what Doctor Strange was, because it took, like, a lot of stuff from kind of more trippy movies like Inception, and we're trying to, like, they're just trying to make the movie seem better than it really was. But it wasn't particularly deep. It was just kind of boring and lame. And that's kind of my issue, I think, by and large, with just Marvel movies in general. They're just super lame. Let's see here. Yeah, so this game is Steampunk Tower, which I got because it was on sale. I'm actually kind of enjoying. It's pretty implicit. But yeah, like Thanos' plan doesn't make any sense. So he like wants what's his goal again? He wants to kill half of the things in the universe because otherwise there's not going to be enough resources. But he gets godlike powers, so instead of like just making more resources, instead he decides to just kill half the things in existence. Why exactly? I'm not really sure. I don't know. Like Marvel movies just can't do villains well. I'm not sure if anybody's noticed that, but the Marvel movies are just like I'm trying to think like who are the villains we have in the Marvel universe? We have Thanos, who's a terrible villain. We had Ego, who was a terrible villain. Ego was, I guess, one of the less bad villains because Kurt Russell's kind of like a charismatic actor. Like, remember Ronan the Accuser from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie? He was fucking awful. Yeah, Red Skull sucked too. Like, what was right? Like, he wasn't as bad, I guess, as some of them. You had Robert Redford's character was bad. Loki was actually not a bad villain in the first Thor, but he's gotten progressively worse as time's gone on. So, yeah, Loki was probably the best, but like his motivation doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just. And then, like, I want someone in the chat to explain to me what Ultron's motive was. Because I was rewatching the movie just because my father it was on TV, and I literally couldn't tell, like, what his goal was. Like, why did he want to blow up the world? Why did he hate the Avengers? Like, nothing about his motive makes any sense. And to be fair, like, the DC movies aren't better, but they're, like I said, they're funny at least. Like in Justice League when they have the last alliance of Atlanteans and Amazons. That was hilarious that they just ripped off Lord of the Rings. Like, that made the movie funny. So he read history and he figured out humanity is garbage. Yeah, but he didn't really explain it very well. If that was his motivation, it was very poorly established. Because I'm not actually, like, that's not even necessarily a bad motive for a villain. It's just, I just, watching the movie, I think you should be able to understand that. And it just seemed like, okay, we got James Spader. He's got an awesome voice. And because, like, he has a cool voice because he's Red from the Blacklist, we don't really need to worry about giving him, like, a motive or a character. He just has to talk, and the movie will just be good. Is there anyone like the worst? I think the worst villain, the worst member of the Avengers, other than maybe War Machine, is Vision. Like, why is Vision even in it? And why isn't he called Jarvis? Because he's very clearly Jarvis. But, like... And then... I don't know, just nothing about it made any sense. It's an interesting question. Which movie was worse? I'd say that... I don't know, of the Avengers movies, I'd say the third one might actually be the best. I think the first Avengers movie was the worst. The second was pretty bad, and the third was probably the best made. I just am tired of it. I'd say the only really, like, parts I enjoyed was the scenes with the Guardians of the Galaxy cast, particularly the scenes with Drax. Just because Drax is hilarious. And there's that scene where he's talking about how he's perfected the art of moving so slow that he's invisible. And that was actually pretty funny. But in general, the movie was just kind of garbage. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Also, when did the Scarlet Witch and Vision get together? Did that just happen off screen, or did that happen in, like, one of the side movies? I don't know. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy are, like, my favorite Marvel Universe movie. Although 2 I thought was not that great. Because, like, some of the humor was really good in 2, but I just thought the plot was really lame. I didn't think Ego was a particularly good villain. Have you seen any of the DC animated movies? No, I haven't. I think the only DC animated movie I saw was Mask of the Phantasm, which was a really, really long time ago. I don't even remember the last time I saw a DC movie, animated movie. Like, I didn't even really want to see Age of Ultron. No, sorry, not Age of Ultron. No, I didn't want to see that either. I didn't really want to see Infinity War. I just kind of feel like I had to. Because it's just, they've been just hyping the fuck out of this thing for the last decade. And, yeah. I just kind of had to see what it was that they made. But it's weird because I'm the only person in existence who liked Superman versus Batman, which is kind of funny. I guess I kind of like Ben Affleck's take on Batman as kind of, because there's a couple different like ways to play Batman, and I feel like he went with the bitter old man who realizes that his career has achieved absolutely nothing. Yeah, I've done End to Evangelion, Sauron. If I have the agency, I'll send you a link. But yes, I have done End to Evangelion. It's up on BitChute. What am I watching at the moment? I'm watching Karakeno, which I'll do a review of Karakeno once I finish it. I've seen Karakeno before, but I was rewatching it because a friend of mine hadn't seen it and I hadn't watched it in years. Karakeno's really good. For those of you who don't know, His and Her Circumstances was made by Ono, and it was like a high school romantic comedy done by... Well, it's not even really a comedy. A high school romantic drama by Ono. And it's like, you gotta wonder, how the fuck is someone like Ono gonna do a romantic drama? And it is super Ono. So, like, you have the cicadas and everything. You have the cicadas, you have the random, like, train shots. You have the power lines. You have the weird, like, stream of consciousness rants. It's very obvious that Ono directed it. If you've seen Shin Godzilla also has that very much. Like, it has, like, the random power line shots and just all the other things that Ono puts in everything he makes. Ano's kind of a mad genius, because he's definitely a very talented filmmaker, but it's very obvious that he's, like, well, he does. We know he suffers from severe depression. And that's, I think, very prevalent in his work. I mean, Gainax was kind of founded by otakus who hated otaku culture. And so a lot of it is kind of like a deconstruction. I really hated, what is it called? Gunbuster? I think it was Gunbuster, what the Gainax series, the most recent one they did was. I really hated it for some reason. I just thought it was kind of lame and tacky. So I've been watching that. I've been watching Welcome to the NHK. I need to get through Welcome to the NHK. I just find Welcome to the NHK hard to watch. Just because it hits a bit close to home, if that makes sense. Also, I just find the characters to be very unlikable. which I get is kind of the point. I understand they're worse in the light novel and the manga, but yeah, it makes it a little difficult for me to watch for any length of time, just because I kind of hate everybody in it. I mean, show's okay. I'm trying to think. I think my biggest issue is I just find it hard to believe any of them would actually get their lives together IRL. I just tend to believe people don't really change much, so I just kind of feel like none of them would wind up getting their lives together. Why'd you say gay next instead of gay next? Everyone pronounces it gay guy next. I pronounce it that way because I can. It's spelt gay next. It's not spelt guy next. And I don't know. I admit, though, I've started just blocking anybody who writes like a big thing attacking me for not being able to pronounce things in the Steam universe. Sorry, in the Dune universe. I just kind of got tired of it, so I just started blocking people. Just because there's so many fucking comments about it. Or people who disagree with me. I think people have to understand when I'm doing something like sci-fi pulsi, I do make up a lot of stuff. Because in a lot of cases, there just isn't always that much to work from the source material. Because obviously, it's a lot of the time people just don't put that much thought into it. So I do will just make up or extrapolate or draw conclusions to try to make a more interesting video. And I think people sometimes don't understand that. And they will just say, well, this something you said contradicts canon, but I don't know, some of it's just impression, etc. Yeah, I don't get why people thought I was a DC fanboy, though, for my review of Avengers. Because, I guess because I said the DC movies are more watchable, even though they're worse. Maybe that's why. I don't know. How the heck do you pronounce Quetzal's Hazarak? Now, people got angry that I called them the Bene Gesserit instead of the Bene Gesserit. But I just always thought it was that way just because they're obviously based off of... Their name is obviously an homage to the Jesuit IRL, so I always just pronounced it that way. So... no, but people get ultra triggered over pronunciation. It's just something that irritates me. Yeah. So what else has been kind of going on lately? There's just been all the internet blood sports stuff, and I just am kind of tired of it. I find it's just really obnoxious. What was it again? I really hate internet blood sports. I don't know if I've ever really talked about it much, but I just find it unwatchable. I just wish people would stop with it. It's kind of the last gasp of a dying movement. The fact that this is what kind of the remnants of the alt-right has been reduced to, I think really says something. Just it's just so lame. So while we're talking about internet blood sports. So people sometimes ask me why I dislike Jim so much, Mr. Medicare, the internet aristocrat. Like, why I dislike him. Because most people in these circles really love Jim. I find him to personally be, like, I just find him to be kind of an uncreative force who just kind of hates everything. And, like, I don't know if I've ever really heard him express a like a positive opinion. Like, he just seems to hate everything and like everybody. He doesn't really, I feel, ever kind of criticize from a place where he wants things to be better, if that makes sense. Like, I think to a certain extent, like, because people will say I hate everything. Oh, thanks, Max. I appreciate that. I will do more soon. By the way, if anybody, for the Imperial Civil War series, is there any, like, side content people want? So I'm going to do one about the deep core. If people want one about, like, fleet composition and ship types, I'll do that too. No, people think I'm negative because I will sometimes trash movies. But, I mean, if you look at it, I give lots of movies positive reviews. Just if that's something I feel kind of sensitive about, it's something people have always kind of criticized me for. If you really, like, look at it, I like about a third of the movies I watch. I hate about a third of the movies I watch. And I think about a third of them I watch are okay. And there's some, like, trashy things I like that most people hate. Like, I really like the Fast and the Furious movies. Like, I know they're kind of garbage, but, so as I was saying about Jim, yeah, so I just don't find him, like, particularly constructive. I also find him hypocritical, because, like, he complains about, like, e-bagging and stuff. Does anyone know if he actually has a job, or is he just a professional NEET? Like, because I remember, like, his recent stream he did on King of Pole, it's like 3.5 hour long podcast, and literally 2.5 hours of his 3.5 hour podcast is just him reading super chats of, like, people who give him money. I really didn't like John Carter, to be honest. It was better than the book, because I really disliked the book. The book was awful. Yeah, I think Jim is a professional NEET. It's kind of funny whenever somebody criticizes him for being anonymous. He gets really, really triggered by that. But yeah, like, he criticizes people for for just a lot of stuff that I feel he kind of does himself. Now, maybe somebody can confirm this. Right. The other thing I don't get about Jim is he has, like, this white nationalist fan base, but he's an unapologetic rice farmer. Kyle Dawson says, Fast and Furious is generic, but its strong stand for family and God is too important factor to ignore. I mean, you know who actually likes the Fast and the Furious movies? Andrew Anglin actually likes them, bizarrely enough. Kind of for the same reason that I like them. Because they're just unapologetically male, if that makes sense. Like, it's a bunch of just, like, burly alpha guys going around the world kicking ass, like, with hot chicks, blowing stuff up. It just did, like, big cars. We got stuff like The Rock and Jason Statham fighting. We got Jason Statham and we got The Rock and Vin Diesel fighting. You just got a lot of, like, really charismatic actors together who obviously like really like each other and probably hang out outside of work. Outside of just making the movies. It's just they're just a lot of fun. So, like, I understand that they're trashy and that they're not really good movies, but I like that, and I like the whole aspect of Dom basically being kind of the patriarch. Like, they're his family, and if anyone fucks with his family, he takes responsibility for it, and he goes out and like kicks ass and stuff to protect them. So it's I don't know. They're like I said. I know they're kind of trashy and they're not really quality, but I do enjoy them a lot for what they are. Like they I think they're pretty aware that they're yeah. Oh, thank you, Max. That's extremely kind of you. Um, I appreciate. That's very nice of you. Just as a comment, I do read all the comments I get. I just am too lazy to respond to them sometimes. But okay, Jim does have a 9 to 5 job. Okay, I thought he didn't. Okay, well that's kind of to his credit then. I just yeah. Now talking about the whole King of Pole thing. I'm kind of scared to do a video. I don't really want to do a video about it because King of Pole is insane. And if I was going to do a video about him, I think he'd try to dox me or troll me. Dox me or troll me or something like that. But no, King of Pole is the craziest person I've ever seen online. And the leaks didn't really surprise me because if you know anything about King of Pole, you'll know that that's not really out of character. Because if you ever go on Kiwi Farms, King of Pole has, I think it's like 5 or he did before he got banned. He had, I think it was like 6 different accounts on Kiwi Farms. Want to review Westworld? I'll get to Westworld eventually, maybe. At the moment, season 2 of the 3% came out, so I'm just watching that. This is Steam Tower Defense 2. Oh no, just Steam Tower 2. It's available on Steam for... let's see. It's only $9 on Steam. So yeah, so King of Pole has like 6 or 7 accounts on Kiwi Farms. And like he would have threads where they would talk to each other, and they actually kept trying to ban him because even though Kiwi Towers, yeah, so they would just keep banning him, and he would just keep coming back. And apparently he would have threads where his alts would talk to each other. So he'd have like 4 or 5 alts who would just like argue in threads, and he'd use them to like back himself up. So what actually happened is the owner of Kiwi Farms sent like a legal cease and desist against him. And then he announced he was going to sue Kiwi Farms. But it's like it's really sad. The dude needs to get help. You just shouldn't be on Kiwi Farms like 14 hours a day. It's just not healthy. Professional neatdom just rots your brain, and I've been pretty adamant about that. Like, even if you're just working part-time or doing something, you just shouldn't like spend all your time on the internet. And I know I'm probably not the best example of this, but like I have a job. Like, like if you have a job or you go to school, or even if you work part-time, you aren't exactly a professional NEET. But if you're spending like 14 hours a day going on kiwi farms, like it's just you shouldn't be doing that. I'm sorry. Jim did the video on King of Pole because King of Pole kept telling people he was IRL friends with them, and that he was in something called the Medicare crew. Yeah, that sounds like something he would say. But like, I don't really want to talk too much about the guy. But like, that whole thing did not surprise me one bit. Just knowing what I know about the guy. Spend time on the internet. Hey, if we want to waste our free time watching you cryberries make up drama so you can compete with the WWE, then so be it. I don't think I said that. I mean, I do DSP videos. My issue, I just don't think it's healthy if your entire life revolves around internet drama. That's all I was trying to say. Like, I don't think it's healthy to spend 14 hours a day on kiwi farms. Or to do like what Fred Fox did, where he made his entire life about going after Phil. Like, it's funny. Like, it's fun to go on, like to watch. Like, I like to watch Phil Snort Brunel videos or like Tevin videos, etc. But if your entire life is just about trolling Phil, then that's just not where you should be. Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm pretty adamant about professional NEETs. Professional NEETs. Yeah, because I went through a long period of unemployment and not really having like a job to get up and go to. Or not even a job, but just like something in your life beyond just internet stuff. It rots your brain just being alone all that time. I've always wanted a race realist writers to review anime movies, TV, anime shows. Can you be that person? I'll pay. Yeah, that is the entire Kyle Dawson. That's what reaction reviews are. I know I eventually like want to get my shit together and start actually doing editing and stuff. I've just been too lazy to. The other issue is every time I try to do it, it just gets content ID'd or it gets a copyright strike. So, like, I've gotten copyright strikes on just my normal reviews for like having something in the title. So, yeah, like for having Justice League in the title or for having like a thumbnail. Oh, thank you, Max. You're very kind. I appreciate it. Sorry, just a phone call. I'm just gonna not take that right now. But Top 10 Tech says, I kind of wish Fred Fox would come back. He was a good host despite his faults. Yeah, I mean, Fred Fox was interesting. I really enjoyed your trailer reactions. I found your TED 2 reaction to be particularly funny. You should do more of those. Yeah, I'll do more of those. Just kind of my issue with doing them is the amount of just kind of copyright issues I have to deal with. And I know people can call me a whore for monetizing everything. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's fair. If I do it for fun, but if I can make some money on the side, it does definitely like help to justify some of the time. Plus, it's not even that, it's just the principle of it. That like a lot of people like Red Letter Media, and again, I'm nowhere near Red Letter Media in terms of like it, but it's kind of irrelevant. Like some people are just able to monetize anything and use large portions of it, etc. completely lost my train of thought there. Now, with regards to the DSP stuff, oh, thank you, Carnhorn, for the $5 tip. It's going to go straight to the bills, straight to the tax bills. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're making your working day better. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Do you actually get money from ads? Yeah, I make about $200 a month or a bit more. Oh, thank you, Savage Large. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I do make money. I make like $1,400-$1,500 a year. Something like that. Thoughts on your war on incels, Argent? Sorry if you've already talked about this. Yeah. When you really make money is around Christmas time. So, like, I don't really... It's probably against some terms of service. Oh, thank you, Chris Hikari. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. It's always good when Argent streams when I'm stuck working. Oh, by the way, guys, if you'll scroll down in the description, there is a big list of games there. And if you want one of them, just let me know. I think I have some here I've forgotten to take out, so sorry about that. But if there's a game there that you want that's listed, just let me know and I will send you one. So you have to have a Steam account so that I can actually send you it. So yeah, so you need a Steam account. So what I'll need you to do is, I'm not going to remember if you ask me in the chat. So you can, there's a link to my Discord server below. So if you contact me on Discord, my Facebook page, or send me a message on YouTube, I'll send you the Steam code for a game of your choice. It's just kind of a fan appreciation thing, just because you can get pretty good deals on video games if you buy Humble Bundles. So I just save them up for a couple months. The games I don't use, or if there's like one where it's just $5 or something and you get like $100 worth of games or whatever, and I just like to give them away periodically, just kind of as a thank you to people, because it really does mean a lot that people watch and enjoy the videos. Let's see here. Yeah, ad revenue is very high in November and December. Like, that was one of the things when DSP started talking about with Machinima, like, my ad revenue massively went down in February. February is the highest time of year. Sorry, the lowest time of year is January. Like, because during Christmas time, ad revenue can go up to like $4,000 or $5,000. Sorry, $4 or $5 per 1,000 views. It's kind of like the maximum you could get up to. Whereas in January, it's like $1 or less. So ad revenue is very high, like October through December. In the first 3 months of the year, it's extremely low. But it manages to kind of go back up over time. So, yeah. Oh, thank you, Max. That's going to go straight to the bills. I appreciate that. That's very kind. What was I thinking again? Yeah, but once again, there's a bunch of games below. I'm sorry if there's some there that I've given the keys away from and I just forgot to update. So yeah, so if you want one, just send me a message on Facebook or Discord, and they'll get you the key for it. So, once again, just for being a viewer, you're welcome to any of them. You don't have to do anything else. I don't think the Humble Bundle allows you to anyways, but... what was I thinking about again? of the list that you put down there, the only thing I think a lot of people like your streams because they're comfy. Hated. What was I thinking about? Yeah, so let me think. There's just been a bunch of stuff lately, so I'm kind of just getting... Sorry if it's kind of stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness. Oh yeah, so the whole incel thing people were asking me about. So I think one of the most surreal moments of my life is my mother asking me if I knew what an incel was. She's like, Argent, do you know what an incel is? And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is my mother asking me about some autistic internet nonsense? And I was just trying to explain it to her, and she didn't really understand it, and I was trying to explain Elliot Rodgers to her, and she just didn't get it. Like, she didn't understand why people thought Elliot Rodgers was funny. And it was just really awkward, and I think she got angry at me. Because I couldn't explain it. Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware, what wound up happening... Actually, when she said, are you an incel? I almost said I'm more of a volcel, to be honest. Okay, so there is this Armenian guy in Canada who, because he was an incel or whatever, he drove, I think it was like 11 or 12 people home. Drove a bunch of people down with his car. So he went on a rampage, he drove a bunch of people down with his car, and he blamed it on not being able to get any sex. And he called himself an incel, and he talked about like starting an incel jihad. And he talked about like Stacy's and Chad's and how they drove him to do it. And so like a lot of people, I did a video on it where I basically complained about what I call mass narcissism, where I get tired of just people who aren't involved with events pretending to be affected personally, and just the whole pray for Paris, Toronto strong, hate, all that kind of stuff. Like, I just get really tired of it, and I just find it obnoxious. But, so that stuff happened, and when I did a video about that, a lot of people immediately started to say that the whole thing was a false flag. Like, someone's like actually wrote a post unironically talking about MK Ultra, and they said it was like a false flag to pathologize internet culture or something like that. And like it's just I get tired of people calling everything a false flag. I mean, like, honestly, why can't it just be a crazy person? Like, why can't it just be some crazy dude with mental problems who went online, found some like weird stuff that justified his kind of place in the world, latched onto it, and used that as a justification for his nonsense? Like, I don't get why there has to be a conspiracy. Because, I mean, think about it. Do you know some crazy people? Like, I'm sure most of us know crazy people. Most of us know, like, sociopaths or, like, severely deranged people. I don't get why it's so weird to think that some of them just snap and go out and kill people. And there's not just... And that there isn't... Like, maybe, like, even if, like, maybe one or two of the school shooters or whatever are, like, false flags or whatever. I mean, I don't get why it's so weird that there's just, like I said, crazy people who get guns and then go out and shoot up schools. Like, that doesn't really surprise me. You know what I mean? And the fact that, like I said, some random crazy person found some incel stuff online. Couldn't you use the crazy person argument for jihadis? No. No, you can't use that for jihadis because it's en masse. It's not like lone wolves. So, okay, so the difference between random people and jihadis is the random people aren't part of like a bigger community. Like they aren't part of a cell. They aren't part. Well, they're part of the incel, but they're not part of like a broader organization like ISIS or that kind of thing. Also, it's just not consistent. Like en masse, like you don't. It's also a degree of scale. Like you have a lot of jihadis, whereas and they act together and they act in a certain way. So. I do think it's different, but like I said, I just think it's a crazy person. What was I thinking again? Like another thing, and this is kind of an unpopular opinion I have, but I do think there is a legitimate conversation to be have about mentally ill people getting guns, because that does seem to be the primary issue here. Like I'm not like talking about gun control, but it does seem like a lot of crazy people who shouldn't be getting guns are getting their hands on them. Whether or not there's any real way to deal with that, I don't know, but I don't think that that's like an unreasonable thing to keep in mind. Um, they're trying to compartmentalize Islam. Do not lie to us. I don't know what you mean. Why can't I mention ISIS? I don't understand why that's such a bad thing. Okay. Maybe if you could explain that, Kyle, a bit more? ISIS isn't real. It's Islam versus everything versus everyone. I mean, that's true. ISIS is more radical in some ways than a lot of historical Islam is. Because to a certain extent, like the idea of just killing all non-Muslims was not always that prevalent. Because to a certain extent, the idea was to just keep them around as a repressed class who would pay money. Because yeah, if you kill off everybody, then there's no one to pay taxes to you or to leech off of. So. No, but like Kyle, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying to a certain extent, like they are trying to compartmentalize this. Like I don't disagree with you that they are trying to say, oh no, it's not common. It's just it's just ISIS. It's just a bunch of radical extremists. At the same time, like it's I don't know if you guys have ever played the game Overlord, but like the two alignments in Overlord are like lawful evil and chaotic evil. Like you can either try to enslave the world and make it kind of your bitch, and you don't kill people because they can serve you or be useful to them later. But what was I thinking? What was I saying again? Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing you have to understand about Islam is, and this is kind of a core part of the way I view the world, is things don't happen by accident on like a meta level. So in the case of Islam, Islam developed in response to the specific, I guess you could say, needs of the Arabian culture. So like in terms of the Middle East, people there just have very high time preferences, very poor impulse control, and it's an extremely savage and tribal society. So Islam, with its kind of totalitarian, extremely strict legal code, I think is to a large extent necessary to as make society as functional as it can be in that part of the world. So, like, people talk about burqas and they're like, oh, are men going to go crazy and rape if they see a bit of skin? And the answer is yes. Because that's just kind of biologically and culturally how people are in that kind of the world. So, it's kind of to a certain extent, unfortunately, it developed in response to that specific kind of set of conditions. And I mean, to a certain extent, you can't really argue its success. They went from being a group of just desert nomads to being global conquerors in the span of a couple decades. So, it does seem to have been pretty effective. I mean, obviously, my religious beliefs are Christian, so I don't religiously believe in Islam. But I'm just saying, to think of it as just kind of some savage thing that kind of just developed in a vacuum is I think, very misleading. Islam, as with most things, just kind of emerge in response to a certain set of circumstances. Which is, I think, one of my biggest issues with a lot of, I guess you could say, kind of modernist or maybe post-Enlightenment ideology, is this idea of just going from first principles. Like, you just go from liberty or freedom or equality or something, and you just very much put that on the... You put it as that's the first thing. The first thing is not to try to determine what works or why things come about. It's to say we need society to be like this abstract principle, and we're going to assume that everybody wants that every culture is biologically and culturally capable of handling it, which is just not the case. And I'd actually love to do a debate with a liberalist, because, like, to me, the biggest failure of liberalist of ideology is the assumption that everybody wants the same thing. And that, I think, is a very dangerous thing to think. Because not everybody wants the same thing. Some people just don't care about freedom. It's just not something important to them. Like, I think by and large, East Asians, particularly the Chinese, freedom is just not very high on their list of priorities. Order is the highest on their list of priorities. Collectivism is fairly high on their list of priorities. But, like, the idea of individual freedom is just not that big a deal for them. So the issue is, if we had a liberalist state, would have to be a police state. Specifically, it would have to be like a totalitarian police state, because you couldn't allow people to vote. You couldn't allow people to express, like, certain opinions. You would have to ban certain political parties. Because there could be people like me who want to ban stuff. Like, let's say I make a party and part of our policy is banning pornography, and we win a majority and we pass a constitutional amendment banning it. Then what is a liberalist state going to do about that? Are they going to say we're going to respect democracy and we're going to let you do that? Or are they going to say, no, democracy comes secondary to our principles? So, yeah, like, that's just kind of a thing to that just kind of tends to be the thing, like this. Or what about Islamist parties? Because they're okay with immigration, so So what are they gonna are like Islamist parties not gonna be allowed to run? Are they gonna have like a police state that represses religious expression? Is just I don't understand how their society would be sustainable without a police state that actively persecutes people who don't agree with them. And that's kind of the issue, and that's an issue you have in a lot of Western liberal countries, is people naturally don't like it. People naturally have a preference for their own people and that kind of thing. So you basically need to use force to make people live in a society under certain conditions that they otherwise don't want. So I hope that kind of makes sense. What does freedom mean? Okay, that's an interesting question. I think it is to a certain extent a bit of a, I don't know if it's difficult to describe or kind of incoherent concept. I mean, I guess to a certain extent it's the freedom from, or it's not being directly controlled by an external force. But yeah. But no, it's kind of an incoherent concept. Because to a certain extent, authority or like a strong state can make you free. Because you're not free if you have to live in constant fear of getting like killed. But having like a police force and having social expectations and that kind of thing provides people more freedom and like more opportunities for, I guess you could say, self-actualization. Like the fact that we have certain social norms and we have certain, I guess you could say, expectation, laws, that kind of thing, I think make us freer in a lot of ways. Because like I said, you don't have to live in constant fear and you can focus on other things. What do you think about America's freedom of religion and the GOP's incessant need for religious rights and protections being a long-term double-edged sword? Now, freedom of religion, I mean, there's different ways of viewing it. I don't support open-ended religious freedom, I guess you could say. But to a certain extent, any society with substantial any substantial minority populations is going to have a certain amount of a religious toleration. Like the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had to have a large degree of it. Germany had to have a certain amount of it, although they in practice kind of didn't. Like with regards to America, where like a lot of people want it to be a Catholic theocracy or a Catholic state, it just can't happen because America's too religiously diverse a country. So just the concept of it being a like a monoculture or being a mono-religious society is unrealistic. In the case of America, I think they should just say that it is a Christian country with no denomination specified. I don't mean non-denominational Christianity. I mean just Christian, but without a specific denomination. Um, but no, like the idea that the state should treat all religions equally is a crazy idea, and one that's kind of unique in terms of, I guess, kind of the modern West. Like even like a lot of the most liberal countries in Europe don't respect that. They will have like a certain number of religions they'll recognize, but like most countries won't recognize Scientology as a religion, for instance, because of the nature of it. Would you consider Messianic Jews as Christians? I don't really know anything about Messianic Jews. They just sound like cringe to me. They just sound super cringy. The only thing I really like about them is that they're trolls because they really piss normal Jews off, and that's kind of the nice thing about them. So, oh, let's see. I care more about Christianity, traditional Christianity. Let's see here. I guess something that makes like a lot of people, maybe I just differ from some people, is I'm not particularly like anti-Protestant, so long as they're not like complete shit tier. Um, I kind of just want a broad coalition against, I guess you could say, I guess degeneracy and modernism, and if that's Protestant or Catholic or whatever, um, that like it doesn't particularly, it's not like the end of the world either way. Like, for example, in Northern Ireland, I would vote for the DUP, despite the DUP being an Orthodox Protestant party. I'd much rather live under like a conservative Protestant state than under like a atheistic state. If I lived in Holland, I'd probably vote for the Orthodox Reform Party, like like the ultra Calvinist party. I'd probably vote for them just because I find that a lot more preferable. But I don't know, to a certain extent, I'm just not really interested in these inter-debate views. Thoughts on Jehovah's Witnesses? Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult. I don't think religious toleration should be. Um, what would you consider shit tier Protestantism? What's your favorite kind of music? I kind of like, I guess you could say, soundtrack music. I have no sense of aesthetics whatsoever. Um, which is partially just because I have a nonverbal learning disability, so I don't really like music that much. I guess just kind of anything that's super like catchy, or I kind of like power metal. I like Judas Priest a lot. I like Sabaton a lot. I like kind of like trancey electronic music, and I like soundtrack music. I guess is how I would describe it. I really have no taste in music though, so I'm not going to pretend that. Thoughts on Pentecostalism? That's a good example of shit tier Protestantism. Rhythmic music? I guess. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I have really developed music tastes at all. I do go to the Symphony in Toronto a fair amount, because the Symphony in Toronto is pretty easy to get to, and a couple times a year they'll have good sales. Like in general, during Christmas during Boxing Week they'll have a sale which is uh three three or more concerts for $33 each. So I'll often buy like four, and I'll just see them periodically throughout the next year. So my attempt to have a little bit of culture. Would you move to the U.S. if you were able? I mean, maybe. It's hard because it's as much as I hate Toronto, it's home. You know what I mean? It's hard to just leave behind where you grew up, where your roots are, etc. thoughts on the Dougster. Is that the nostalgia critic? Is that who you mean by the Dougster? I haven't really thought about him in quite a while, to be perfectly honest. I heard something was happening and like Channel Awesome was falling apart, but I hadn't really looked at it beyond that. So sorry, so is that what's going on with Channel Awesome just imploding, or oh, Doug Ford. Okay. I thought you were talking about Doug Walker. Doug Ford's okay. I mean, I don't see why people think he's super edgy or anything, but I don't know. Doug Ford's an okay guy. I like him. I'm going to vote for him, obviously, because I don't know who else I'd vote for. I guess, I don't know. I just want Kathleen Wynne gone. I don't think Doug Ford was accused of sexual assault. I think you're thinking of Rob Ford. I don't think Dougie's ever been accused of anything like that. Nor is I think he's ever been accused of drugs. But no, Doug Ford seems like a good guy. Any plans for more lolcow videos? Probably eventually. I don't know. I'll get to it at some point. Let's see. Upgrade the Raven. Oh, Doug Walker was accused. Can I repeat my question? What do you think of... why do you think that LDS is accepted? I have no idea. Probably because it's bigger and it has more financial power. Is probably the reason why it's accepted. Otherwise, I don't know. They seem kind of similar to me, to be honest, between the two of them. Let's see here. I'll buy one of these. Send them to get more stuff. And so what happened with Doug Walker? Because I have no idea. So he did he get accused of sexual harassment or something, or I really have no idea what's going on with that. Jew Wario was the rapist. That sounds like the least surprising thing ever. Oh, by the way, guys, do you want a preview of a video? Here, I'll give you a preview. I'm not going to put this up for a while, but because you guys are awesome, this is a preview of a video I'm going to eventually put up. I'm just waiting for DSP to do something a little more crazy. I'm waiting for like the next big drama thing, so let me just find it. Give me a minute. So in future, I hope to do kind of more stuff like this. Dearest Leanna, by now the news of my foreclosure has reached Connecticut. Is this playing? The video games that I came here to play not playing? Were unstreamable, and the donations that I needed to pay my bills have proven to be smaller than anticipated. Okay. Okay, let me just... Got cucked by my own ads. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Okay, here we go. So here's the sneak peek of a video I did. Let me just make sure the audio balance is okay. My greed. Dearest Leanna, by now the news of my foreclosure has reached Connecticut. The video games that I came here to play were unstreamable, and the donations that I needed to pay my bills have proven to be smaller than anticipated. Whatever the detractors may tell you about what has happened in Seattle, know this. My 10-year legacy did not perish at the hands of the IRS. I killed it. My greed killed it. And now my gout has consumed me as well. You will never see my live streams again, Leanna. Tell the hardcore fan base there was nothing I could do, and that their king of hate went bankrupt in defense of quality content. But I digress. I hope people got got what that was a parody of, or what that was a reference to. Let's just watch that again. So if somebody knows what that's a reference to, put it in the chat. By now, the news of my foreclosure has reached Connecticut. The video games that I came here to play were unstreamable, and the donations that I needed to pay my bills have proven to be smaller than anticipated. Whatever the detractors may tell you about what has happened in Seattle, know this. My 10-year legacy did not perish at the hands of the IRS. I killed it. My greed killed it. And now my gout has consumed me as well. You will never see my live streams again, Leanna. Tell the hardcore fan base there was nothing I could do, and that their king of hate went bankrupt in defense of quality content. But I digress. Okay, here, I'll show you what that's a reference to. This is what it's a reference to. This is StarCraft Brood War. This is what it's a parody of.
Dearest Helena, by now the news of our defeat has reached the earth. The creatures we were sent here to tame are untamable, and the colonies we were sent to reclaim have proven to be stronger than we anticipated. Whatever you may hear about what has happened out here, know this. Alexei did not die gloriously in battle. I killed him. My pride killed him. And now my pride has consumed me as well. You will never see me again, Helena. Tell our children that I love them, and that their father died in defense of their future. Over.
Yeah, so that's what that's a reference to. I've been playing StarCraft 2. I should do a review of that at some point, but Yeah, so that inspired me to make the DSP version of that. It just seemed to fit. Tell the hardcore fan base there was nothing I could do. Quality content. Let me see how long this live stream has gone on for. As a principle, I don't like to stream more than 2 hours. I'm sorry, more than like an hour and a half. Unless I'm covering something that justifies it. I just think it's kind of overindulgent. And I just kind of stop. I think I just get tired of talking for that long. Let's see here. So how long has this been going on for? It's not letting me see how long this is. Let's see here. Oh, okay. I'll stay on another 10 minutes and then I'll go. I guess kind of the ongoing question I think everybody's wondering is how is the whole DSP thing going to end? Like, when is he going to finally go bankrupt? From what I've heard, there was this guy, the King, I think his name was, who offered to pay his taxes for him, like all of his taxes. And Phil thought he was a detractor, and he attacked him. And because of that, the King has become one of his detractors now. Kind of like Vidar has. Vidar's become one of his like chief detractors after he got thrown under the bus during the whole Doxgate thing. That's a thing. DSP is very lucky in general. He's just bad at managing his luck. Like when his Homefront the Revolution video randomly got a million views, but he was unwilling to like capitalize it and immediately went to his hipster hotel and took a vacation. And like the other day, that guy raided his stream and like 1,000 extra people came onto his Twitch. And rather than taking advantage of that, any advice on a degree for a college dropout to pursue? Not particularly. Which one are you? I just want to mock him. I actually have been very critical in the past of people who directly fuck with him. Like I really hated, what was his name again? Be Awesome One? Yeah, like I actually almost thought he should have doxed Be Awesome One over the fake copyright strikes. Because that was incredibly scummy. I really don't like that. I don't like people who give him fake donations. There's a lot of people who... Yeah, Be Awesome One. There's a lot of people who fuck with him IRL. And, like, there's people I've seen who are, like, A-logs who are like, DSP's evil, he needs to go home, become homeless and lose his house. He's just a random asshole. Jimmy James says, I did not like people who called him a pedo. No, he wasn't a pedo. And frankly, it was kind of base that he got a girlfriend who was so much younger than him. I mean, that was kind of bait. Like, that was kind of woke. I can't believe I'm using that term with DSP, but I actually kind of respect him for that. Like, I don't really get how he was a pedo. At worst, he'd be like a pedophilic, but I think like the American Psychology Association defines being a sexual deviant as only being attracted to teenagers. Being attracted to like adults and teenagers is not considered to be that. Like Leanna was definitely fully grown when he started dating her. The fact that there's an age difference is kind of like, I don't know, like I said, it was kind of alpha. But, that bothered me. I don't know, there's a lot of A-logs regarding... At the end of the day, DSP is just like some loser who plays video games. It doesn't really, like, matter. Like, it's just something to watch for fun. I also think it's a good opportunity to like teach lessons, like to tell people how not to manage your money. This is how you don't live. I think he's also a very good example of just what millennials are like, etc. But yeah, overall DSP is just, I don't know, people are just A-logs about it. Like, ultimately, he's just a retarded Let's Player who scams people out of money, and I don't really even care that he scams people, because to my mind, the people who he scams are just kind of dumb at this point. Like, it's very well known that DSP is a scammer. It's very well known like that he steals money, and at this point in time, if you're still like giving him cash, then kind of shame on you. I mean, if you're a legitimate fan of his and you want to support him and you want him to keep doing content, like, there's nothing wrong with giving him money. Just know that he's a pathological liar and that he just makes things up all the time. But, like, can you really blame him for the fact that dumb people give him money? I don't know. It just seems a little unfair to me. You need to take certain turrets into this battle. Okay, so we'll take those. There we go. Deploying turrets. Oh, it's a survival level. Okay, so I just have to survive for 5 minutes. Which shouldn't be too hard. I thought the sponsorship arc was funny. Yeah, I actually... People sometimes actually call me a white knight for DSP. Because I think the A-logs go too far. But with regards to the whole, like, sponsorship thing, I thought that was pretty scummy. How people got him... his sponsorship revoked. I don't know. Phil's just kind of a douche. I mean, like I said, if the people who actually like take it that seriously are just they're A-logs, I don't really have a lot of respect for them. I liked his video where he LARPed as an SS officer. Yeah, no, it's funny because whenever I go to watch one of his live streams, the bots are like, did you know that DSP LARPed as an SS officer? And, like, did you know all this racist stuff he said? And I'm like, so you're telling me if I want edgy content, then I should watch Phil? I thought it was funny, but whatever. Also, people who think Phil's a hardcore racist are just delusional. Because back when I used to deal a little bit with Sons of Kojima, some of the people there like legitimately thought Phil was a hardcore white nationalist. And I was like, no, Phil just makes some like mildly politically incorrect jokes. If you actually listen to him, he's kind of a shit lib. So... I don't know. As I said, if you think Phil is a hardcore, like, KKK member-style racist, You live an incredibly sheltered life. And I've told people that to their faces, and they get pretty triggered, but it's true. No, I mean, like I said, Phil's just said some mildly politically incorrect stuff. I guess the most you could say is his attempts at politically incorrect jokes are just not funny. A lot of the time, like, his China jokes just aren't really that clever. But, I don't know. I actually think his best playthroughs were his MGS ones. I don't understand why people gave him so much shit. His MGS playthroughs are hilarious. Like this, the whole running joke about Kojima being his arch nemesis is... Like, that was... I don't know, I just thought that was hilarious. Like, his constantly attacking Kojima, I thought was really funny. And he is kind of true. Like, the fact that people got so butthurt that he made fun of Kojima, I think does kind of prove what his whole thing was about, like, people who worship him. Like, people do kind of worship Kojima. And I kind of like the Metal Gear games, but I admit Kojima's kind of a douche. Like the whole twist in Metal Gear Solid 5 that, like, spoiler alert, that Venom Snake isn't actually Big Boss was just a big fuck you to the fan base. And it was just a really lame, unnecessary twist. I thought Kojima World Order was hilarious. Like, I don't get why people didn't, like, thought that, like, got offended by that. Taking, like, a random wrestling song and, like, going, like, and making it, like, the Kojima World Order. Like, it just, how long the joke went on. Like I said, I thought that was really funny, to be honest. Let's see here. I got some money for doing that. I think it was him I'm supposed to say. Death Stranding. I don't know what Death Stranding is. What's Death Stranding? Anyway, so that's an hour and a half, so I think that's long enough for a live stream. So thanks everybody who came by. More content to come, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of the weekend.